Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and welcome to the vlog for behind the scenes, the 2020 ChemKnits Hanukkah special. I hope that you have just enjoyed having 8 nights of videos after sunset, each featuring a different technique on dyeing yarn. And well, today it is going to hit 100 degrees outside, and it is still July, but I am in full-on planning mode. I've not yet started filming any videos, but I have a bit more of a plan and a vision right now of what I want to achieve over the 8 nights. And I wanted to bring you in on that little thought process. In 2019, I ended up playing with the saturated colors of the rainbow, and each night sort of focused on a color. This year, I want to focus on levels of saturation in light and dark. Okay, maybe not quite that literally, but I thought it would be fun to start with a pastel and increase the amount of saturation in color through the whole series. I'm not sure if this is where we ended up, but on a gray scale, this is a rough technique and colorway type plan. I'm not actually worried because in my pattern with Hanukkah, all 8 skeins don't have to go together in a perfect fade set. The goal isn't to make a perfect fade, but I just want to add a little bit of limits and challenges to myself, which I think will be fun. Another idea I thought would be fun would be to limit the colors I have in my disposal to 4 brights and 4 deeper, darker colors. I am not sure that this is final yet, and I'm not sure if this is going to be the final 8, but I like the idea of creating sort of this color template for me to use, and then working with these colors, designing and adding color to my vision for the different videos. Now, as you know, things don't always come out as I have planned, but I thought that this would be fun. Some preliminary color sketches, and I'm just not sure. I mean, it's hard because like the techniques and stuff can vary, and while I like the idea of reusing things, maybe I should keep the base has a similar technique from a previous night, but not necessarily that it's the same colorway, because that feels like it's a bit more limiting with some of the techniques that we're coming up with. So I think at this stage, I'm going to worry a little bit less about the color story and focus more on the techniques that I want to do, which is why I'm really glad that I sketched this out in grayscale. Now, this is not the first draft of this. I had played around with this a fair amount before as well. I love these little tubs. I use them to organize the yarn for series after I've dyed it, but I decided to sort out the bags of minis or full skeins for each night, for each episode, so that way it makes inventorying the yarn easier, especially as I plan in like leave no dye behinds and things like that to have bonus skeins. And so it's helped me have like a better handle on how much yarn I have and how much more I might need. July has brought about some yarn shortages. As things reopen but at reduced capacity, and as dyers prepare for the holiday season, things come back in stock and then are immediately out of stock again. Thankfully, I ordered all of my minis. Technically, I suppose they're 10 grams, so like Wool to Dye For calls them micro skeins. I ordered them with enough time, and more advent calendar dyers use 20 gram minis versus the 10 grams, so I think I kind of lucked out. But I guess this goes to show, don't pre-order anything, don't pre-sell anything that you don't actually have the materials on hand to use, which is the way I operate anyway, but that's just good advice, I think, if you're starting up a business, especially now that there are a lot of dyers stressed out and switching to alternate bases. Here we are filming night 1 of Hanukkah. What's funny is that I've actually already filmed night 2 and then I think night 8. So things get filmed out of order, but I just thought that this was really, really pretty and I really wanted to share this picture and figured I can share it with you guys for the vlog. The way I assemble Hanukkah is that there's 8 main nights and then there's 2 extra wrapped packages which correspond to some kind of extra or bonus from either one of the main nights or maybe a bonus video at the end. But for this video, I did a little swatch on these micro skeins with pigmented and then pastel colors. And this was really, really fun. A lot of times I'll start like a dye-along or something doing a bit of swatching on a full skein, but doing this on micros was actually really handy. And I am so excited to untwist this one. Right now I'm working on twisting the skeins from what I think will be night 2, maybe night 3, depending. Aren't they pretty? I'm just watching a video as I do that. What's interesting about Hanukkah is that this isn't intended to be a fade set where all of the yarn works in one project, since I use so many different techniques and colors. But I still end up with doubts over color combinations that I want to use. There are certain things that I got really excited about over the last year that I want to try to include in a new way. Like I'm thinking about the clock from the ChemKnits Chanukah, that red, black, sand, and pale blue. I think having a combination of that would be really fun. I think having a combination of some like brights with a dark for the resist video that I have planned. I want to revisit my like candlelight Hanukkah oops that didn't quite work out last year. And I also, there's this combination of teal, pink, and I think Tangelo that I'm obsessed with that I want to try to incorporate. But given this vision of this like less to more saturated that I have, the nice thing is that I can rearrange the videos after the fact. Like I know what's going to be the end, I know what's going to be the beginning, but everything else can sort of shift based on how the yarn turns out. So that is helpful. But I have doubts and I sometimes keep changing my mind over and over and over about my color choices. At some point, I'm going to need to just like pick a color and go for it. Because I don't want, like some of my doubts are like, okay, well, if I do a resist of a bright green with then that forest green over it, like this night's very green. So is that too much green for the kit or would it be substantially different? And things like that. But I think I want to use that forest green as like the dark for that one, but I'm thinking right now of doing some blue and pink underneath and then mixing that forest green with a little bit of navy. So, I mean, you'll see where we end up, but I hope it's fun hearing some of my thoughts as I'm like ruminating over these colors over and over and over. There's some that I always know for sure, like the night 8, I knew I wanted to do those dark, dark colors. So I go upstairs to check on what all the boys are up to, playing some video games, and I show off this yarn. And Ryder, what did you say?
It's awesome.
And what did you ask me to do?
Make it into a hat.
Yeah, he asked me to make it into a hat for him. And I said, I'm sorry, kiddo, it's for Hanukkah. And what did you say?
I love Hanukkah.
Yeah. But we can dye more of yarn in this color for you sometime, okay?
Okay, Momo.
Can you say Happy Hanukkah, everyone?
Happy Hanukkah.
You can go play again.
Oh, maybe.
No, honey, Hanukkah is a long way away.
Oh.
We have to have Thanksgiving and Halloween and Mommy's birthday first. I started planning like some stitch markers for 2020 Hanukkah a long time ago, but I've been going back and forth on some ideas for a little bag that will wrap one of the bonus nights, plus just be a fun little notions bag that you could clip onto something. And I had inspiration. I always want to use part of my logo or my ball of yarn from my logo in these designs because I think it's fun. But one Hanukkah song is about the dreidel spinning. And I think most people know I have a little dreidel, I made it out of clay. But there's a Hebrew song, Sevivon Sov, which is talking about dreidel spin, spin, spin. And I mean, spin, 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 yarn. I think that goes together, don't you? So what I don't know is if Sov which applies to a top spinning, you would think that that would also work for yarn, but I don't know, and I haven't checked with my Israeli friends. So if it really doesn't work with yarn, and then that connection only really works like thinking about the English, I'm sorry, but I think that it still works because this is a Hanukkah yarn sampler. So even if the language translation doesn't work, Sov 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 are lyrics from a song and the yarn is all spun. So I don't know. I feel like it works and I really like this idea. Now I just have to design the design. I have found a decent rhythm with these stencils. So as I put it back on, I wipe the excess paint off on some wax paper each time. And then I use just like this makeup sponge to help really, really press it back in. And this is allowing me to use the same vinyl stencil over and over. And then I add on some of the glitter puff paint that I'm using, followed by a nice helping of the silver. It took me some practice to get down the amount that I really needed to have good coverage. And this purple is pretty, this might not be the best one. This purple is very clear. It's mostly the glitter. So that is why the purple is layered with the silver. Just to give a little more just sort of tonal variation to our yarn. And then of course this is the yarn ball from the ChemKnits logo. And now as I peel off the stencil, I try to peel with the yarn right in there. And then it will dry down pretty flat. Sometimes I get a little variation in the opacity, but when it dries down, it is a lot smoother, even though you can see we have some thicker parts in here. But I'll set it aside to dry overnight. Here's a blue, which fun enough, some fun trivia, this blue is actually the same blue that I used on the cards from Hanukkah 2019. And so, yeah, I need to make sure it's covered in the silver. That might be too much paint. But I need to make sure that it is covered in the silver so that way you can see it. And yeah, that is a lot of paint, but we'll spread it out. I'm really dabbing versus sort of swiping because I'm attempting to not drag the paint around, if that makes sense. But making sure to get some good coverage across the whole stencil. And then fingers crossed. Wahoo! That one's a good one. But anyway, this is just how I've been making these, stitch marker cases, because I think you could clip it to like a bag and then keep stitch markers in here, or you could use it as a coin purse. Now I am working on some prototypes for the labels and cards to include in the samplers. And I think I'm finding myself overcomplicating things. I have ideas, but I also have to consider the scalability of everything. And the fact that I'm gonna need to make hundreds of yarn labels versus one per set means that, okay, maybe I don't want it to be too complicated. For the cards, I went through multiple iterations. I really like the idea of having just like a pretty happy Hanukkah with the back. It was really fun making this, but I realized that trying to do dozens of this might be complicated and could get very frustrating. Next, I started looking at just doing a simpler dreidel with a happy Hanukkah. I really like this font and the way I was able to get the letters to connect. And then liked having the yarn. But again, this is fairly fragile and I'm not necessarily planning on adding a backing to it. So I started trying to draw out my yarn and I actually really like this. The lines of the marker are a little thick, but you still look at it and can tell it's a ball of yarn. It has a really nice sheen to it. I'm not sure about the two colors, and the backdrop might change, but I think that this might be what I go with, and then I can sign it like, you know, Heart Rebecca from ChemKnits on the back. This is obviously just a prototype of the labels because since they're flames, I'm not going to do them in purple and blue, but I really like this idea, and I think I might get a sticker, some kind of vinyl sticker to cut for these little flames to put on, so there's a little bit of shine and fire. And thinking about this and going back and forth a lot, I might not cut the numbers out. I might try to make it a little more simple. That way it can be easier to see. I could try to have the Cricut write the numbers with a marker on the labels. That actually wouldn't add a lot more time to, you know, doing each sheet on the mat, but it would be just as easy for me to handwrite the numerals on there. And so I think that that is the direction I will try to go. I really hope these details are a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with it. And currently, where I stand today, I have 3 more nights of Hanukkah to dye, plus a few more bonuses. And then if I'm gonna do, I haven't really made decisions about full skeins that could be added to the samplers. I plan to do them, I just haven't made any decisions about them. I have a sense of one of the colorways, what I want to do, and then the other 2, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I think that I'm gonna go ahead and do the one that I know I want to do. And this is the vlog. So I want to redo a version of my Hanukkah Oops from last year where I sort of did some orange and pink on one end and then dipped it into black, and it looked too Halloween to me. I have an idea that will make the bright end feel a little bit more like candlelight. And then with the black, I think I want to add a little bit of like navy or gunmetal or something to it to make it a little more, feel more midnight. And so that is my plan for that colorway, and I am really, really excited for it. I am currently filming the 2019 Hanukkah Oops recreation, and you can see the marks from my respirator mask. I do have a blog post where I did some research on some other brands of masks with some recommendations of places where you might be able to find some in stock. Now that it's December, I'm not sure if we're still having the same supply issues as we were over the summer, but I will have that linked down in the video description. And also a blog post of all my favorite like dedicated dye equipment and stuff, just because I think that that is really useful. I'm still working on night number, well, I actually don't know what night this is because I haven't finalized the order yet. I do know is that I have a lot of this leftover black and blued steel combination. I started to talk about this in the video itself, but then realized that it might be better suited for the vlog. So by now I've talked about how I have this order, this vision of going from light to dark for the colors. So I know that this video is going to be near the end. I need to see all the nights laid out, but I have a feeling that it's going to go after the resist dyed, but before the glazed, because it still has that pop of brightness in it. I have not yet filmed one that I want to do that has like layered colors, sort of in that watercolory, like strips technique with some pops of dark on there. That is something that I need to film soon. I still haven't picked the colors. But this would be a really good candidate for the dark for that. But is it weird that, it's weird when I have a dye mixed from a previous video, but you haven't seen the other video yet. And I feel like that's happened a lot over this Hanukkah series. You know, I'm like, oh, this is leftover random amounts a lot of times. And well, I mean, I guess that is just what it is. But yeah, it's led to me to debate if I should use that, because I think that that would be a fun darkness to have there, or if I need to mix something specifically for that video. So I think what I'm gonna do is reserve, you know, like get one of the big squeeze bottles, maybe 500 milliliters or so, and reserve that. And then depending on how much is left, then maybe I'll dye some Cool Vat semi-solids. I think that sounds like a good plan. It's fun. I don't usually get a chance to talk about these debates of what I do with the dye leftovers. If it's not a ton of dye, then I just use it on one skein and leave no dye behind. It is great. But sometimes if I don't use it right away, then it ends up underneath my sink for a longer period of time, which isn't very much fun. Well, because then I forget what it is and the concentration and things like that. And so, yeah, I guess it's fine to use because honestly, a lot of times I don't measure the amount of dye that I'm using anyway. So now you know some of this like behind the scenes, like with the ordering. I am now forgetting. The first may be the solar dyed and or the dark. I did those at about the same time. Then I think I did the opal, and then the resist, then the glazed, then our oops, and then these are the two that I have left to do. I did end up using the dark from our oops recreation night to create this colorway. And I am absolutely in love. Sometimes I really, really overthink it. And yeah, I think I was overthinking it earlier today. But now I have another little problem. That colorway used so little of this dye, which really isn't that huge of an issue. It's just, it didn't really help me with the using up the dye. But the other thing is that now I have a lot of that pink that I mixed from that video left over as well. But I think I will probably do some kind of leave no dye behind semi-solid Cool Vat type video, so it won't go to waste and we'll create some beautiful, beautiful colorways. But I just thought that it was funny that now I have more leftovers than I did before. I just finished up the 8th colorway. Well, finished 1/3 of the 8th colorway. This is not the 8th night, obviously, but it is the last one that I'm dyeing. And so I've done 1/3 of the yarn for this video, and I'll do the other 2/3 off camera. But it's really, really nice. I think I'm way ahead of schedule. I don't know if I've ever finished all the dyeing in August, and I haven't even released the pre-orders yet. But as I think I've talked about in this vlog, I am nervous about what's going to happen with school, when they start school, how long will in-person school last, and so since there's so much I don't know about my filming schedule going forward, I really wanted to make sure I had the filming completed, so that way if things are more complex as the fall goes on, I can focus on editing and then doing some more voiceover videos. But by now, we're in the future, so we should have a better sense of how this all came together. I am filming the conclusions for this video right now, and I was going to start talking about some of the assembly and then realize that makes more sense in the vlog versus in the video. It is both exciting, and I love being able to include some random leave no dye behind skeins from the Hanukkah videos as the 9th and 10th 10-gram skeins, so the whole thing can be 100 grams. I think that is really, really fun. But it also makes me sad sometimes when there's a colorway I love so much and only 1/3 of the sets will have that bright pink to go along with this pink. And so so that part is really, really hard. But if I wasn't doing the leave no dye behind, then I wouldn't have created this magic in the first place. So this is something that has inspired me for the creation of other fades going forward. So anyway, I hope that no one is ever disappointed by the bonus skein that they have in there. And I hope that it's fun and adds an extra little bit of mystery, because even if some of the mains are spoiled, there's still going to be some variation and surprise left in there. And so that is something that I really enjoy. Again, in the videos, I'm coming to this I want to challenge myself, pick a few colors, and do a bunch of colorways. I think where I limited myself this time was that I already had an idea of the techniques I wanted to do and a bit of this progression from less saturated to more saturated. So then trying to fit a set of colors around that was a little harder. I think to do this vision, I would need to start with the set of, the same 4 colors or 5 colors I wanted to use in every video, and then design the colorways starting with those colored pencils or crayons or something like that. So I think that it was a lot harder for me to work around when I had the technique ideas. And so I hope that makes sense. And so I'm really inspired. I mean, it's only August and I'm already wanting to film another special series. Oh man. Rebecca, finish filming and editing the one that you're working on. Cutting the labels. I haven't yet decided what I want to do for the 2 bonus nights, but I thought for the 8 main nights it would be really fun to do this flame, and I am really excited. The cardstock color will vary a lot depending on the various nights, but I think it'll still be really cool. And then for the inner part of the flame, we have this iridescent flame colored center, which is really cool. And then I'm planning to write the number right down there at the bottom of the flame. And then on the back, we'll have the date that the video will come out. So that will be really obvious. The donuts arrived and they are so cute. They are definitely bigger than I expected, but I think will still be really, really cute stitch markers and appropriate for Hanukkah. It is traditional at Hanukkah to eat foods that are fried in oil. And so donuts or skeins, which are typically more of a stuffed jelly donut or maybe stuffed with Nutella or delicious, are very traditional, along with the more famous latkes. So I thought that this would be a really, really fun, whimsical addition to the Hanukkah sets. Next up is a little extra that should be somewhat familiar to all of you. It is the ChemKnits logo. I am so excited with how these turned out, but oh man, making them was not easy. The concept is really simple. They're shrinky dings. You print them big and then you bake them and they get thicker and become nice and tiny and more sturdy. The actual execution is hard. Oh, it's hard. This is not an easy material to cut through. I do not recommend trying to do something this detailed, but it is worth it because I love them. I think in the future I might look at, getting something laser cut or dealing with something that is better suited for a thick material. So, I love the Cricut. It's been doing a lot for me, but it really isn't designed for production level manufacturing of anything. This is the before. I really tried to film the shrinking process, but I guess the inside of my oven door is so smudged that I couldn't actually film while watching. So, too bad. But here is the after. They really do shrink a lot. I do feel like I've been a little ambitious with some of my plans. I love the Cricut machine, but it is not super fast. So I think that for next year, I might do things a little differently. And when I'm making something that's 1 per sampler, then it's okay to go a bit more complicated. But for example, for each of the tags, maybe I'll try to streamline things a little bit more. Nevertheless, I've had so much fun designing this, and I think it's going to come together so cute, and I really hope that you all love it. You are balanced on a pumpkin right now because it's loud inside and I did not grab a tripod. I am now developing the colors and going to start dyeing the colors for the full skeins that are going in the samplers. The 2 yarn bases I'm going to use are, one is a superwash MCN, a merino cashmere nylon, and I think, I keep going back and forth between something heavy speckled on the countertop and steamed, or doing a sort of layered low immersion like I did on this base in a recent Dye Pot Weekly episode, but going back to those hearts and just infusing this yarn with so much love. And I'm actually leaning towards that now. I had so much fun just layering on the hearts. It gave a very different type of pattern from what I frequently get. And I love the way that the Superwash MCN picked up colors like that. So actually, I'm really thinking that's the direction I'm going to go with that one. As for the Sparkle base, which is a Lurex Superwash Merino blend, I think I've been going back and forth between wanting to do a resist. Ever since I did the Aurora Borealis inspired yarn in the dye-along, I really thought that, like, okay, I want to do some, that really like sparked me and actually inspired a lot of this whole series. But I don't want to exactly recreate some of those that I've created before. And I'm trying to stay away from blue. I've done blue a lot in these limited ones. So I'm not sure. The other idea, I know that this sparkle base didn't work super well with light speckles when I tried last Hanukkah to see. What if I did heavier speckles, like the colorway I did for, I don't remember which dye-along, but the clock one, where I had, you know, solid points on either end and then speckles on the countertop in the middle, and they bloomed, and I think that that was really, really fun. So I think that might be what I try first. Even though that was the colorway I thought about doing on the MCN, I want to see how that would come out on the Sparkle. I also thought about doing something really, really subtle on the Sparkle yarn, like the a layered, like multiple step layered tonal that similar to what I had created for myself for a knit along I'm working on right now. But I don't know, I just want people to feel excited, and we're gonna have contrast with the silver and whatever color I do, so may as well pump up that volume a bit. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I can do it. It's easy to do a one skein test of the like speckled. And all right, I think I have a plan. So let's go and get into it. I just finished the Sparkle prototype and I am so excited. I love it. I absolutely, absolutely love it. And it doesn't feel speckled exactly. It feels more splotched, but hopefully everything is well set. And whatever you would call this type of colorway, the colors and those shifts aren't overwhelmed by the silver. So you can tell how if I had tried to speckle or something on top of this, you know, that silver stands out. But I think that this is just so fun and very much like a party. Good morning. It is October 3rd and I'm about to dye the non-sparkle merino cashmere nylon colorway. When in probably the previous clip from last week, I was talking about the kind of colorways I was thinking, I think I forgot that I did some hearts in Hanukkah already, but I think I'm still going to go with that for the colorway. And I have some fun ideas for colors. It goes to show how, like, oh my goodness, sometimes you could just completely forget I knew I layered the colors, but it's so easy sometimes to forget exactly what you did in some videos. I mean, this isn't related to Hanukkah, but recently I released a video where I injected dye into roving. And while filming that video, I was convinced I had done that before, but I think I forgot that my injection videos were all on yarn cakes and not roving before. And so it was only when I went to go look for the first time I had tried it that I realized that I hadn't done it before. So that's, anyway, just a little fun with my memory. But the good news is that since I film all my projects, I can go back and look for them and then see it. And so that helps sometimes, especially when I want to see or try to play with a different kind of color combination for my project. The funny thing about working on this project so long is it can be hard to tell and remember what I've filmed until I go back and edit the vlog. But we're now approaching mid-October and it's really time to start packing. So here are our 8 nights with our bonus skeins in there. Up there we have some leftovers from last Hanukkah, and then up in that one are the little stitch marker holder pouches that I had made. And what we're going to start doing is caking up about half of our full skeins. And that will allow me to wind multiple minis at a time because I only have one yarn swift. So I'll have one intact skein on the swift and then one in a cake. Maybe even two in a cake. We'll see. So I am going to try to spread out both the winding and the caking over multiple days, so that way I don't put too much stress on, say, like my elbows or anything like that. But it's typically a fairly efficient process, and so I'm excited to get another close look at the yarn. I don't know how often I pull back from this shelf. Yeah, the Hanukkah yarn has just been up there, just out of sight. So that's sort of how this wall is set up. I hit a little bit of a snag. I designed these labels initially around the size of these return address labels so that way I could print them and put it on the back. The problem is that they don't fit. It's too big. So I think what happened is I initially designed the size around the labels. Then when I first printed it in the bigger size, it seemed really big. So I shrunk it and forgot what the purpose was. So I think it is still salvageable. I'm just gonna have to cut it. But the problem is that I printed all the nights already. So, oh, well, I think I can cut it and make it work. And we're just gonna try to make it work versus wasting materials. But if you wonder why it looks different than maybe what you thought, that's why. So this isn't quite as neat as I had originally planned, but when I then go and add our little one right here, the important information is on the front. This information is just so that way there's a date and it's clear what it is, and then it's a little label that can be used to label the mini after the fact. I think this is our order. It's a tiny bit hard to tell because the bonus skeins are still in here, and so that sort of throws the progression off a little bit. I always knew this would be the first night, and then I wanted our colors to get progressively more and more saturated. But then we've got some pops of bright with dark. And then here with our glazed, it's more all over dark, but sort of a bit medium, but it's dampening the color. And then in the end, we've got our super, super saturated. Oh, I love, love, love how this turned out. And then the bonus ones you can see peeking through. I am so, so excited with how these colors came out. And well, I'm really excited to see, the 8 nights all in a row, because that's when I might make a little bit of tweaks to the order. We know we've got night 1, and then we know we've got night 8, but some of these in between could shift around, especially when I start planning some of the Leave No Dye Behind and other Dye Pot Weekly episodes that fit in around this. For example, this is not the last time I revisit this. I wanted to go further and take another look at this glazing using higher twist yarn. So that's a video that, if it's not out already, will be coming out soon. But anyway, I wanted to play with the order before going off and winding. There's not actually that many skeins to wind. I did use a lot of pre-made minis, but you can see I caked up a lot of the colorways already, and it's just fun. So with things caked, I should be able to do potentially up to 3 skeins at a time. So this should go pretty quickly. But in case you haven't seen my skein winder, let's go take a look at Triss. And yes, that is a Tamora Pierce Circle of Magic reference. My spinning wheel, her name is Sandry, after a girl than woman whose magic sort of expresses itself through spinning and weaving. I felt that was appropriate. And then Triss actually has weather magic and cyclones and stuff, so it made sense for the skein winder. My row counter is busted. Ugh. I mean, I tend to weigh one of the skeins anyway, but this is going to make everything a lot harder. The skein winder still functions, so that's good. It's just when you know how many wraps are in 10 grams, then it's really easy to just have the weight be a very superficial check. But now I'm going to need to pay a lot more attention to the weight of one of the cakes I have out. And yeah, because I don't think I'm going to be manually counting the number of wraps, but I'll get a rhythm. But oh man, it could be worse. It could not work, and then I would have to do it all by hand. But at least she works. This isn't going to be as bad as I thought. I do tend to weigh each mini because I just like to double check. And I weigh one of the yarn cakes as just sort of a milestone, a way to keep track and just keep double, triple, quadruple check everything I'm winding. So I think that it's definitely going to add a little bit of time, and it's going to take adds a little more guesswork in, but I think that we'll make progress and hopefully we'll get a couple hundred done tonight. Check out non-reskeined versus reskeined. I talk about this a fair amount, but I think that reskeined can give you a better idea of the proportion of the different colors and how something might look knit up with all the colors sort of blended together. This looks very, very neon and candy, but I personally prefer to see skeins like this as they were dyed, because then you can open it up and get a sense of the color progression and how big the different color repeats are. So that's just my personal preference. But of course, if I'm making mini skeins, they have to be reskeined. So there's no way around that. When I take the minis off of my skein winder, I sort of wind them into these lightly twist them into these donuts and then weigh them. So that way I can weigh them before I clip the yarn. And so then I open them up, tie off the other end and twist them into the minis. And so that's my assembly line setup. I am thinking I should get an automated twister. There's like a skein twister that has like a hook and then with a foot pedal, and then it'll twist for a certain number of seconds and then turn off. I think that that's something that would be helpful because I don't currently have any joint issues, but the more you do the same motion over and over, it's something I want to keep in mind. And I also know that I have a lot of bows to tie later on, but I'm going to spread that out over like a week, I think, so that way I can minimize the repetitive motions. Anyway, I just want you to know that I am cognizant and do try to make sure to go slow to take care of my body. Mainly not because I'm worried about things right now, but I'm always thinking about the future. And I'd hate to have, I don't know, something happen, which would mean that I wouldn't be able to make minis in the future. So I am just being cautious and careful. When it comes to wrapping up our minis, the first thing I'm going to do is arrange these bonus skeins because there's a little bit of finagling I want to do. For example, I don't want one person to get 2 grays or something like that, so I'm not going to just randomly put it into the containers. Now, I have 2 different ways I am wrapping these bonus skeins. And since each person will get one of each, I am going to arrange it, I think, into a bright and a dark, approximately. The other thing I have to do is keep these separated by night so that way they can be labeled with the night where their filming is done. I'm cutting labels for the bonus skeins at the same time, but the DK were pretty easy to work out since there were multiple nights that were full skeins. So we've got 30 across the top. That will go in one of the packages. Then the other package, we have these remaining ones. The fingering weight took a little more finagling because there were more nights that didn't have just even groups of 10. But I think that these will be the first half and then these will be the second. There's some colors over here, like this I would have rather grouped with the dark, but if I had done that, then I would have had to split a similar color into 2 nights. And so I don't mind splitting a night if the colors are distinct enough, so that way it'll give people 2 different colorways. So that is what I was playing with here. But let me show you the initial packaging. So one of the nights is wrapped in paper, and I did include a tag, so this could be added onto the yarn for people who want to keep the labels with the yarn. Otherwise, I might have just used a sticker on here. And then the other is wrapped in this little stitch marker bag. And I actually placed one of the few stitch markers that I made onto here with the label. And then it has the date and the night and the weight on the back. And for DK, I'm going to use yellow. And for the fingering weight, I will use blue. So that way I can easily distinguish them when it goes to pack the boxes. Once I start packing up each individual night, that will be a little bit easier because I can work just one box at a time and go all the way through. But the nice thing about getting these done is then I can actually look at the 8 main colorways together sort of for the first time without seeing these bonuses mixed in to get a sense of the actual real progression. Eek! I'm excited. Got a little assembly line set up. We've got our night 5 labels here, the date, and then I'm wrapping each of the DKs in blue tissue and then putting them inside this silver organza bag. And then I will tie the label on the front so you have that information there. And night 4 and 8 get little stitch markers. Now the sock minis are different. They have blue bags with white tissue on the inside. They are different, but it could be very easy to accidentally grab a fingering and a DK. So I want to make sure that I have them sort of set up in separate areas. Wrapping the bonus skeins, super fun. So these also have the date on the back. And then I've got our sparkle box in these lavender bags with this cute little like globe with the iridescent stars. And the superwash merino cashmere nylon is inside these blue bags with the same little bauble star iridescent progress keeper, which I will swap out for a different color. There are a few people that ordered both of the colorways, and so I'll give one of these with slightly different colored stars, so that way they have some fun variety. So this purple and almost teal iridescent is the one that I'm including most of the kits, but I also have this lavender and blue iridescent color, and then this is a more deep blue that I don't think is really iridescent, but it's shiny. And so those are the 3 colors that I have. It's time to start packing boxes. We've got all the DK wrapped minis. I set up a bunch of little boxes and then some of the extra things that need to go in the packages. This is how I think the standard boxes are going to go. We've got the 8 nights here, one of the bonuses, and then on top the second bonus will go like that, although that's going to slip down, but things move around with packaging. So the second bonus, the card, which I assigned the back of all of them, and then the letter, which has, tells you where to find the videos, explain what's inside, and then has a little yarn label in a way that you could cut out if you wanted to. Then I think I put the letter in like this on top, then everything should be able to close up, and that actually works really, really well. Now obviously one of these can't fit one of the full-size skeins as well, so I'm going to have to use different packages for that. I think that this works, and hopefully people will read the letter to see everything that they need to see. I can't believe that this is my first time going to the post office with all of this goodness. This is my first time going to the post office since the pandemic started. I have been mailing everything through, a blue mailbox in my neighborhood, but I don't think the boxes I'm using for Hanukkah would fit, but it's just a weird feeling because I used to drop everything off at the post office by hand, get it scanned in at the counter, but I think I'm just going to go to the package drop. But it's still odd. It's very odd. I know there's a way you can schedule a pickup from the post office, which I might do for the next round because this is only about a third of the packages. So we will see how it goes. But yeah, yeah. The package drop-off went great. I was in and out in about 5 minutes. There was a bit of a line waiting for the counter, so I went with my instinct and did the package drop, and it didn't get clogged or anything. So I am really, really happy about that. And now I have to go finish wrapping up all of the fingering weight pre-order minis. So I started with just the DK so that way I wouldn't mix things up, and now I'm on to the fingering weight. But oh my gosh, now I just have to hope everything gets scanned in okay. Fingers crossed, especially for those international packages. It's time for the next round of packing. Oh man, I would love to film like a time lapse or something of this, but I don't think I have that in me. It would be really fun, I think, to watch me do it, but I'm going to show you how I've revamped my little system. Okay, so I have this little setup with me in the center. So nights 1 through 4, and then 5 through 8, and then I will load all of those into the boxes, and then I'll grab the bonus and the extras. But first I will load all of these like this because there's no danger of anything really slipping out, and that is a manageable way to do it. But oof, oh, that's so fun. I love the lights reflecting. Oh, I'm so glad I went for those stickers on the labels to show the flames. Oh, that is so fun. The little things. And I will be honest, I already started thinking about Hanukkah 2021 and what to do. And I have loved putting so many handcrafted details into this box this year. But I also know how much time that all took. And so I'm thinking about, okay, what can I do that'll make things potentially easier for me moving forward and more manageable when dealing with this many packages and things like that. So I really, really hope that you all enjoy opening it and that you've enjoyed all the videos. It is really, really so much fun, and I hope you can feel all of the love that goes into each of these. If I'm going to be packing, I may as well be packing, but the nice thing with having it done this way as well is that I can double check, make sure that the stitch markers are on the bags. And at the second stage of packing, I did notice that there were a couple of the organza bags that had ripped open. And so this has allowed me to double check that as well. And then just replace the little bags. But as I said, I'm really excited to hear what you liked about the packaging and things like that. The goal is to really just have this build excitement once it arrives, and I don't know, to be a wonderful treat yourself moment or present for someone. And just, I don't know, I think that I would love opening one of these. One thing that I do need to think about is I do have some extras of some of the stitch markers, some from last year that I didn't want to include in this year's because I didn't want to give someone the exact same stitch marker twice, because I know there's a lot of you that sign up for these every year. So I have to figure out what to do with them. I'm considering making some single night packages that actually feature minis from last year, but then have 2 or 3 stitch markers on them as just a fun little one-off treat that people can get for whether it is a stocking stuffer or a Hanukkah gift or something like that. Phew! This actually doesn't take very long. and we now have the extras on hand. But this was actually, I'd say, the fastest part of the whole wrapping process. Here I can finally show the difference between the side-by-side DK and fingering weight packaging. It's very, very similar. The differences are super subtle, but I think both are really beautiful. It is October 30th. I am outside the post office, and I just dropped off the rest of the Hanukkah sampler pre-orders. And yes, it's October 30th, and it is snowing in Massachusetts. But I'm excited to relax for Halloween. And then I will start wrapping up the rest so I can release a few more. But yay! So here we go, the 8 nights of Hanukkah, where we go from a very pastel to extremely saturated colors, with a bunch of more medium tones in between. If I swap over into black and white, you can really see our total saturation increase as we go from nights 1 to night 8. It isn't a perfect gradient, but I think that what I was going for did somewhat come through. There are a few things that in terms of bright and dark that I wish had come through a little bit better for the overall story, but I absolutely love all of these colorways that I created. Now, however, the story flips for all of you. You have 10 different colorways of yarn dyed with different techniques that you can swatch, play with, combine into one project in any way that you want. And so this is a great way to finally look at these different colorways and answer that question, I wonder how this would knit up. I would love to see what you use this yarn in, so please tag me on Instagram and maybe use the hashtag ChemKnits Chanukah. So that way other people can hopefully easily find what you've created with your Hanukkah special yarn. I don't do these types of blogs very often at all, but I really hope that you have enjoyed taking a look into my thought process and the things that I couldn't share along the way because I didn't want to spoil any of the surprises. If you enjoyed the ChemKnits Hanukkah special, please make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned on so you never miss a new video. We are not done with new yarn dyeing content for 2020, and we also have a lot of exciting things coming up in the new year. Engaging in my content is always the biggest way you can help support the channel. Watching the videos, liking, leaving comments below, sharing them with your friends. But if you want other ways to support ChemKnits content, I do have a Patreon and an Etsy shop, and all of this helps me create these really, really awesome videos. At least I hope you think that they're awesome because I really enjoy making them. I had to pop in front of the camera one last time. I thought about going up into my nice background, but this is a vlog, so let's vlog it. It's November 1st, and all that's left is to, well, wrap and restock a few more, but I have to start editing. And I am really, really excited to watch these videos come together. I will be filming a few more intros and conclusions to some of them. I like to do that after I've edited so that way I can add any more information that I think would be really helpful. And yeah, then I just have to plan the rest of the year and the rest of the content that I'm going to put out this year, which I guess by the time this is coming out, it's already been planned and I'm working on 2021. So I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching. I want to wish you love and light for your Hanukkah season and a happy new year and a huge social distance hug from me to all of you. And I really look forward to the beautiful colors that we will create in the new year. Bye, everyone.